Good evening, listeners. I'm James Carter, joined here in the Last Signal Radio by Susan John. Tonight, we bring you an event that could rewrite history itself. At precisely 11 p.m. local time, leaked telemetry confirmed something extraordinary. The wealthiest 0.01% of our planet. Names like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Peter Thiel, Bill Gates, Alice Walton, Larry Ellison, and over 1,500 other billionaires, scientists, and elite families have vanished from Earth. Susan, I can barely put into words the scale of this operation. Project Exodus wasn't just a private jet evacuation. Reports indicate simultaneous launches from 4 secret global sites hidden beneath abandoned military bases and offshore research platforms. The question on everyone's mind, where are they heading? Orbit? Mars? Beyond? For the first time, humanity has been left behind, while its most powerful decided to leave the world permanently. The tremors of their departure are already being felt, from abandoned estates to seized technology, and the chaos that follows is unlike anything we've witnessed.
James, the sheer audacity of this operation is staggering. Across continents, private estates sit empty, banks remain unguarded, and entire logistics networks once monopolized by these elites are now accessible to ordinary citizens. Early reports show the UK Crown moving quickly to claim over 25 private islands, hundreds of luxury estates, and even the AI infrastructure that powered some of the departed tycoons' operations. Citizens in New York and London are already exploring these spaces, many with awe, some with desperation. It's a surreal mix of relief and chaos. People are looting, yes, but also repurposing, turning once guarded spaces into centers for community care, emergency response, and public resource distribution. The symbolic weight cannot be overstated. James, this isn't just the removal of wealth. It's the first step toward a fundamental rebalancing of society, though the full consequences are still unfolding. Humanity is staring into a vacuum left by its own architects of privilege.
And Susan, the digital footprint of the departed elites is being exposed in real time. Massive reckoning papers have gone public. Internal memos, disinformation budgets, climate delay documents, and policy manipulation archives. The implications are staggering. Decades of influence over governments, media, and science are now revealed for all to see. Citizens worldwide are accessing servers, formerly protected data vaults, and archives, trying to understand how they were governed from behind closed doors. The emotional response is as complex as the logistics. Shock mixes with vindication, with crowds in cities like Nairobi, New York, and Sao Paulo documenting and cataloging what was once untouchable. This is an awakening, James, a forced transparency of a global scale. People are realizing that the structures they lived under were built to consolidate power, and now, for the first time, they can reclaim what was taken, even if they aren't entirely sure what to do with it yet.
James, on the ground in Africa, the response is immediate and surprisingly organized. Nairobi citizens entered a deserted logistics vault once managed by BlackRock and G7 partners. Inside, ventilators, medical suits, diamond stockpiles, and essential supplies were inventoried and redistributed to 6 rural nations under a cooperative called UMOA-6. Nurse Tessa Uya, one of the volunteers leading the operation, described their mission simply. It's not revenge, it's repair. People aren't just taking for themselves, they're using the abandoned infrastructure to heal and protect. Meanwhile, in South Sudan, the Palowich oil fields transitioned peacefully to local governance, illustrating that even without leadership, communities can enforce a sense of order when opportunity meets necessity. Susan, the transformation is both chaotic and hopeful. The vacuum left by the elite's departure is massive. Yet humans are immediately stepping into roles they never imagined they'd occupy, repurposing the tools of concentrated power for public survival.
The situation in North America echoes this rapid adaptation. In Connecticut, Peter Thiel's compound was accessed by civilians discovering 50 fully functional data servers, cryogenic chambers, and even a military-grade greenhouse dome. Many private jets remain grounded, bunkers powered but abandoned. Governor 𝐘𝐨𝐬𝐿 commented, "We've inherited the keys. The question is what doors we open with them." The sentiment captures the uncertainty and potential of this moment. In Toronto, Victor Lang's secret Nortec Arc library, previously inaccessible, is now public, revealing terabytes of medical research, AI protocols, and untouched art galleries. Citizens are cautious, taking only what is necessary, guided by reverence for knowledge and resources. James, it's a delicate balance between survival, curiosity, and respect. Humanity has been thrust into stewardship of unprecedented technology and wealth, and the first decisions made now could define societal structure for generations. Suzanne, this extends to repurposed infrastructure as well. In Denver, the Western Arcology Complex, originally designed for crypto billionaires, is now under the control of engineers and survivalists, renamed People's Core. Its AI system, designed for a mere 16 residents, runs autonomously and now powers clean water, renewable energy, and underground heating for the broader community. Across the globe, former elites' technological footholds are being adapted into tools for public welfare. Even in financial systems, France has wiped 480 billion euros in debt linked to off-list institutions, and citizens in New York are planting symbolic saplings in front of Goldman Sachs, signaling reclaiming both space and narrative. James, what was once hoarded and restricted, is now a catalyst for systemic reimagination.
Cultural reclamation is unfolding in parallel. In Berlin, Philharmonic musicians performed atop the abandoned Deutsche Bank, while open-source prototypes for clean energy and durable materials are being tested. Nairobi's women-led ground-wire circle restored power to informal settlements and built micro-hospital stations using salvaged solar tech. Across the U.S., museums and educational spaces once reserved for the privileged are reopening to the public. James, it's not just survival, it's a renaissance. Citizens are using abandoned elite resources to rebuild not just infrastructure, but society, culture, and education. The visual and symbolic acts, public performances, art, and restored facilities underscore a profound shift in human agency.
And yet, Susan, the ethical and social implications are enormous. Humanity must navigate ownership, access, and responsibility in this sudden vacuum. With elites gone, citizens face the challenge of using resources wisely, respecting each other, and avoiding new hierarchies. Even mundane decisions, who gets access to critical data servers, how to distribute medical supplies, now carry moral weight. It's an unprecedented test of collective ethics on a global scale. Each choice made now, in this fragile first stage of post-elite society, will ripple outward, shaping the distribution of power, knowledge, and opportunity for years to come. The stakes are enormous, and the world is watching.
James, we remind our listeners that this is only the beginning. Project Exodus has not merely removed the richest among us. It has released a tidal wave of potential, chaos, and responsibility into the hands of ordinary citizens. The nights ahead will reveal whether humanity rises to the occasion, reclaims abandoned assets with wisdom and restraint, and reshapes society, or succumbs to opportunism and disorder. For now, what's clear is that a quiet revolution has begun, visible in empty mansions, repurposed labs, open libraries, and cooperative councils. Humanity is awake to its own power, and the story of Earth post-Exodus has only just begun.
Good evening, listeners. James Carter here with Susan John. The aftermath of Project Exodus is extraordinary. Across Africa, citizens are reclaiming abandoned elite assets responsibly. Nairobi residents entered deserted logistics vaults, formerly controlled by BlackRock and G7 partners, forming UMOA6, a cooperative delivering supplies to clinics across 6 nations. Nurse Tessa Uya emphasized repair over revenge. Communities coordinate logistics, restore services, and repurpose technology. Citizens are proving that even in chaos, human ingenuity and ethics can organize functional governance, equitable resource distribution, and sustainable systems that meet urgent needs while reinforcing social cohesion and communal responsibility.
Absolutely, James. In South Sudan, local councils assumed control of abandoned oil fields, halting exports until infrastructure stabilized. Nairobi engineers restored solar grids, powering schools and clinics. Across North America, estates and arcologies are repurposed sustainably. Denver's Western Arcology is now People's Core, supplying water, energy, and food. In Toronto, citizens accessed a biotech library with AI protocols and medical data. People take only what is necessary, reflecting respect and foresight. Communities demonstrate self-organization, ethical management, and rapid adaptation, proving decentralized, citizen-led systems can operate effectively without centralized authority, blending survival, governance, and long-term planning.
Europe mirrors this innovation, Susan. France suspended elections, forming a citizen-led Congress of activists, teachers, and union representatives. Citizens occupy abandoned buildings as community hubs. Berlin's cultural and tech centers are open for public use. Schools redesign curricula emphasizing collaboration and sustainability. Communities repurpose infrastructure for energy, water, and food production. Rapid adaptations show that ordinary citizens can innovate and govern ethically, balancing survival, civic engagement, and cultural restoration, replacing entrenched political power with functional, resilient grassroots governance.
Exactly, James. In Asia-Pacific, Seoul citizens disconnected the $12 billion surveillance network via referendum, returning to community-managed systems. Cairo residents occupied telecom-linked buildings with transparent decision-making. Colombia hosts volunteer-run servers with financial and political archives. Neighborhood councils manage food and resources efficiently. Local populations demonstrate capacity for self-governance, equitable allocation, and sustained order. Rapid adaptation proves ordinary citizens can create resilient, decentralized systems while repurposing infrastructure and technology, reflecting problem-solving, cooperation, and ethical stewardship on a large scale, ensuring survival, equity, and social cohesion amid elite absence.
Cultural transformation is key, Susan. Berlin Philharmonic musicians performed atop the abandoned Deutsche Bank, reclaiming symbols of oppression. Nairobi's ground wire circle restored electricity and water. Austin converted cultural spaces into libraries, music halls, and STEM labs. Planting trees, reclaiming buildings, and public rituals strengthen communal identity. Citizens rebuild social bonds while restoring infrastructure, showing culture and governance together reinforce cohesion, resilience, and ethical stewardship. Ordinary people are reclaiming civic space, blending practicality and symbolism to reshape society responsibly and sustainably after Project Exodus.
Financial transparency complements this transformation, James. France canceled 480 billion euros in debts tied to elites, South Africa redirected funds to public services. Citizens reclaimed servers and exposed surveillance systems, repurposing them for accountability. In New York, skyscrapers became resource centers, and Hagia Sophia is now a neutral public space. Communities demonstrate that decentralized, ethical stewardship of assets can replace elite control. Transparent governance, civic participation, and ethical resource use show ordinary citizens can maintain society effectively, even after sudden elite departure, fostering trust, resilience, and fairness across communities.
Symbolism reinforces change, Susan. Citizens plant trees, convert abandoned buildings, and create public rituals. Prague disconnected digitally, prioritizing consensus and human interaction. In New York, an obelisk projects messages of hope. Symbolic actions complement governance and infrastructure restoration, fostering identity, unity, and trust. Rebuilding social bonds while reclaiming civic spaces shows culture and functionality intertwined, ensuring ethical, cohesive communities emerge alongside physical reconstruction.
Asia and Middle East follow suit, James. Seoul manages energy, education, and safety autonomously. Cairo oversees governance transparently. Colombia's servers provide citizens access to previously secret data. Neighborhood councils ensure fair distribution of food and resources. Populations show remarkable capacity to govern ethically, adapt rapidly, and maintain order without centralized authority. Communities are building sustainable governance while repurposing infrastructure and technology, demonstrating practical problem-solving, cooperation, and stewardship at scale.
Infrastructure repurposing highlights creativity and efficiency, Susan. Denver powers communities. Lagos's high-rises provide housing and clinics. Zanzibar Port distributes essentials. Former elite tech is used for public good. Decentralized governance and community stewardship prove viable alternatives to elite monopolies. Grassroots solutions restore infrastructure, trust, and empowerment, marking a historic social transformation.
Culture, media, and education are reborn, James. BBC studios now operate under citizen creatives. Libraries, museums, and STEM labs serve public learning. Communities dismantle surveillance systems, restore grids, and hold interfaith gatherings. Education, technology, and culture are now tools for inclusion and collaboration. Ordinary citizens are shaping a new social order, blending infrastructure, governance, and cultural renewal. The elite's departure sparked a quiet revolution of responsibility, creativity, and shared humanity, giving hope for an equitable, resilient, and collaborative future.
Listeners, James Carter here with Susan John. In North America, abandoned elite estates and tech compounds are being repurposed at unprecedented speed. In Connecticut, citizens entered Peter Thiel's compound, discovering data servers, cryogenic chambers, and a military-grade greenhouse. Private jets sit idle. Survival bunkers are abandoned, but operational. Governor 𝐘𝐲𝐬𝐿𝐴 declared, "We've inherited the keys. The question is what doors we open with them." Communities focus on utility, sustainability, and care, ensuring resources meet genuine needs while avoiding hoarding or chaos. Ordinary citizens are proving that ethical, organized management can replace elite control without violence.
Absolutely, James. In Toronto, Victor Lang's private biotech library opened to the public, offering 500 terabytes of experimental medical data, AI protocols, and untouched art galleries. Citizens selectively access resources, reflecting respect and foresight rather than exploitation. Across Denver, the Western arcology is transformed into people's core, distributing clean water, renewable energy, and food. Similar initiatives arise in Lagos, Nairobi, and Zanzibar, where communities restore solar grids, ports, and housing. Grassroots management demonstrates effective decentralization, combining logistics, ethics, and engineering to maintain essential services and rebuild trust in society without reliance on centralized elite power.
Europe mirrors this grassroots renaissance, Susan. France suspended its presidential election, forming a citizen-led Congress of teachers, union representatives, and activists. Citizens occupy abandoned buildings as civic hubs, repurposing offices into community resource centers. Berlin transforms tech labs and cultural spaces into public workshops, while Paris uses open-air concerts to reconnect communities. Infrastructure is repurposed for clean energy, food distribution, and public services. Citizens manage former elite networks transparently, showing that decentralized governance can function effectively, creating resilient systems, equitable resource allocation, and a renewed social contract between ordinary people who are now empowered to rebuild society from the ground up.
Indeed, James. In South America, Colombia and Brazil are actively reclaiming previously private infrastructure. Medellin citizens access abandoned servers, financial archives, and tech facilities to redistribute resources and monitor local governance. Communities in Sao Paulo repurpose AI protocols to fact-check public communication, exposing manipulation from the former elites. Local populations form councils for decision-making, ensuring fair distribution of goods, medical supplies, and energy. These initiatives highlight ethical stewardship, cooperation, and adaptation. Across continents, ordinary people are demonstrating remarkable capacity to self-organize, manage complex systems, and rebuild society sustainably, reflecting both practicality and a shared commitment to equity and responsibility.
Asia-Pacific and Middle Eastern communities follow suit, Susan. Seoul citizens voluntarily disconnected a $12 billion surveillance system, returning to decentralized governance with community-managed infrastructure. Cairo residents occupied formerly private telecom and government buildings, creating transparent decision-making processes visible to the public. Across the region, local councils regulate essential resources like water, food, and electricity. Citizens demonstrate rapid adaptation and problem-solving, reclaiming infrastructure while maintaining order. Populations show that decentralized systems, built on ethical management and mutual accountability, can meet societal needs effectively, restoring stability and functionality while empowering communities to self-govern after the elite departure.
Absolutely, James. Africa continues to lead in practical reclamation. Nairobi's ground wire circle restored power and water to informal settlements using salvaged solar tech, establishing micro-hospitals and sustainable water stations. In South Africa, former elite gold vaults are repurposed to fund rural solar energy initiatives. Zanzibar reopened its deep water port, managed manually by local communities, distributing essential goods efficiently. Across the continent, grassroots innovation restores infrastructure, providing essentials while avoiding reliance on former elite networks. Ethical stewardship, community participation, and sustainable engineering highlight a new paradigm. Ordinary citizens are capable of managing sophisticated systems and resources without centralized power.
Cultural and symbolic reclamation accompanies infrastructure recovery, Susan. In Berlin, citizens transform abandoned corporate spaces into civic hubs. In Austin, former tech campuses become open libraries and STEM labs. Prague citizens voluntarily disconnect from intrusive technologies, turning to human consensus and traditional decision-making. Communities plant gardens, reclaim buildings, and hold public rituals to strengthen social cohesion. These symbolic acts reinforce ethical governance, while infrastructure repurposing ensures survival. Ordinary people are blending cultural renewal with practical resource management, demonstrating that community identity, responsibility, and solidarity are critical in maintaining social stability and creating a resilient post-elite world.
Financial systems are being recalibrated, James. France canceled debts tied to departed elites. South Africa redirected funds for public health and sustainable development. Communities opened abandoned banks and servers, exposing manipulation and repurposing tools for transparency and fairness. Citizens now manage resource allocation and governance without elite oversight. Decentralized councils, ethical stewardship, and participatory decision-making reflect a society reclaiming agency, reducing inequality, and fostering trust. Ordinary people are building functional, accountable systems while balancing social, economic, and infrastructural needs, ensuring long-term resilience and fairness in a world transformed by the elite exodus.
Education and technology are also being transformed, Susan. Open-source labs in Silicon Valley and Johannesburg allow students to access AI and STEM tools, previously restricted. Museums, libraries, and cultural centers are repurposed for communal learning. Citizens establish ethical review councils, monitor former surveillance systems, and redistribute digital resources. Communities are demonstrating remarkable ingenuity, using reclaimed infrastructure and technology to create knowledge-sharing networks, supporting equitable growth and sustainable problem-solving. Ordinary people are proving that knowledge, access, and collaboration can replace elite monopoly, ensuring innovation and public benefit flourish in the post-Exodus world.
James, the global landscape shows a profound quiet revolution. Communities reclaim wealth, infrastructure, and culture while rebuilding social trust. Citizens form rotating councils, cooperative networks, and resource-sharing programs. Public rituals, symbolic acts, and cultural reclamation reinforce ethical governance and social cohesion. Across continents, ordinary people are demonstrating resilience, responsibility, and creativity. The world is being reshaped from the ground up, resources redistributed, governance decentralized, and infrastructure repurposed. The departure of the elite sparked transformation, leaving a human-centered society where collaboration, stewardship, and equity define progress, heralding a hopeful future of collective empowerment and renewal.
Listeners, James Carter here, with Susan John. Across the globe, communities are embracing cultural and spiritual renewal. In Berlin, citizens repurpose abandoned banks and tech hubs into open performance spaces, hosting music, theater, and collaborative art. Johannesburg transforms the stock exchange into a public tech lab, teaching coding, robotics, and environmental mapping. Communities integrate creativity with practical skills, reinforcing identity, cohesion, and resilience. Public spaces once reserved for elites now foster collective expression, critical thinking, and shared responsibility. Ordinary people are creating a society where culture, education, and civic engagement intersect, strengthening social bonds in a world reshaped by the elite exodus.
Absolutely, James. Africa is leading in interfaith and communal gatherings. Nairobi hosts open-air meetings where children share scriptures across religions and neighbors embrace reconciliation. Cape Town's restored ports and solar grids are paired with community rituals celebrating collective stewardship. In southern Africa, citizens organize shared meals, storytelling, and workshops to rebuild social fabric. Spiritual renewal and ethical responsibility are intertwined with infrastructure recovery, instilling trust and cooperation. Ordinary people are redefining societal priorities, focusing on care, knowledge sharing, and mutual respect. These actions highlight how cultural and spiritual frameworks can guide the reconstruction of a functional, equitable, and cohesive society.
In Europe, citizens are reclaiming education and cultural institutions, Susan. Austin opens libraries, STEM labs, and open-access music halls, allowing the public to access formerly restricted resources. Berlin's Spree Park transforms into an informal parliamentary chamber where people debate and vote on community policies. Prague citizens prioritize sustainable living, candlelit decision-making, and disconnecting from surveillance networks. By intertwining cultural revival with governance, communities demonstrate that social cohesion, education, and public accountability can flourish simultaneously. Ordinary citizens are proving that self-directed cultural and civic engagement reinforces both resilience and innovation, forming the backbone of a society no longer dependent on elite oversight or centralized control.
Yes, James. In Asia-Pacific, Seoul citizens voluntarily shut down surveillance networks and reclaimed public spaces for cultural activities, like street chess, music, and storytelling. In Tokyo and Bangkok, communities restore parks and communal gardens, linking environmental stewardship with cultural revival. Citizens integrate practical skills, arts, and collective decision-making to rebuild social trust. These efforts balance ethical, educational, and spiritual growth, reflecting human ingenuity and resilience. Communities reclaim control over their lives, blending innovation with tradition, creating new social frameworks that prioritize transparency, sustainability, and shared well-being, demonstrating a model for post-elite recovery and cultural renaissance globally.
The Middle East and North Africa mirror these transformations, Susan. Cairo citizens repurpose government and telecom buildings into transparent decision-making hubs and community centers. In Marrakesh and Tunis, locals reclaim abandoned estates, converting them into schools, libraries, and cooperative workshops. Public gatherings focus on dialogue, artistic expression, and civic participation. Cultural and spiritual renewal strengthens community bonds, while practical infrastructure is restored. Ordinary citizens combine ethics, creativity, and strategy, building a society that emphasizes shared responsibility, education, and cultural enrichment. The world witnesses a human-centered renaissance, proving that social and spiritual growth can coexist with practical recovery and resource management.
Indeed, James. Latin America is experiencing similar communal revitalization. In Medellin, citizens access servers and archives to ensure transparency, while hosting workshops, art displays, and public debates. São Paulo repurposes AI tools for public knowledge sharing. Public spaces become arenas for education, arts, and civic engagement. Ordinary people prioritize community cohesion, ethical resource management, and inclusive decision-making. These initiatives show that cultural renewal can support governance, resilience, and technological adaptation simultaneously. By embracing art, spirituality, and civic responsibility, societies are rebuilding the social fabric, ensuring that recovery is sustainable, collaborative, and deeply human-centered in the post-elite era.
Europe continues to integrate culture with practical survival, Suzanne. Berlin Philharmonic musicians perform atop abandoned corporate buildings, while citizens open libraries and labs. France repurposes offices into community centers and voting hubs. Citizens collectively manage resources, host cultural events, and implement open forums for debate. The combination of culture, education, and civic engagement reinforces trust, creativity, and social cohesion. Communities are turning former symbols of elite control into spaces for collective empowerment. Ordinary people demonstrate that rebuilding society is not just about infrastructure, but also about fostering identity, creativity, and cooperation, ensuring long-term resilience and ethical governance.
Absolutely, James. In Africa, grassroots energy and water projects combine with educational and cultural programs. Nairobi's Groundwire Circle runs micro-hospitals while hosting workshops for science, art, and governance. Cape Town restores ports and organizes public rituals celebrating collaboration and human ingenuity. Community storytelling, music, and art reinforce local identity and encourage knowledge transfer. Citizens integrate culture with practical survival strategies, demonstrating adaptability, creativity, and social intelligence. These holistic approaches ensure recovery addresses both material and emotional needs, strengthening resilience, cohesion, and shared purpose. Ordinary people are rewriting society with ethics, innovation, and culture at the core.
Asia Pacific and Latin America focus on knowledge sharing, cultural engagement, and ethical governance, Susan. In Seoul, Bangkok, and Medellin, citizens reclaim educational spaces, implement local councils, and host workshops on civic responsibility. Communities organize arts, music, and public debates alongside infrastructure rebuilding. Knowledge, culture, and governance intertwine to create resilient, self-sufficient societies. Ordinary citizens demonstrate that empowerment is not just practical, but intellectual and cultural, fostering innovation, ethical responsibility, and cooperation. Across continents, humanity is proving that post-elite recovery is possible through shared creativity, civic engagement, and social renewal, creating a global model for peaceful, human-centered transformation.
James, the world's quiet revolution blends culture, spirituality, and practical governance. Communities across continents reclaim resources, infrastructure, and public spaces while integrating arts, music, and civic engagement. Citizens restore trust, shared responsibility, and ethical leadership. Ordinary people prioritize collaboration, knowledge sharing, and human-centered decision-making. The global narrative is shifting from elite control to grassroots empowerment, proving that recovery can be peaceful, ethical, and culturally rich. Humanity demonstrates resilience, innovation, and moral growth. Through combined efforts, citizens worldwide rebuild a society that values shared identity, ethical governance, and creative, sustainable living. A new era of human-centered renewal.
Suzanne, the technological landscape is being reclaimed like never before. In Silicon Valley, students and local engineers occupy abandoned AI labs, wiping corporate drives and repurposing servers for public education and open-source research. Former tech compounds now host workshops on renewable energy, robotics, and ethical AI. Communities are transforming tools once used for control into instruments for empowerment. Satellites once privatized by Musk and Bezos are being reprogrammed by NASA and volunteer engineers to restore emergency communications in South America and Africa. Ordinary people are learning to manage complex systems, bridging knowledge gaps left by the departed elites, proving human ingenuity thrives under grassroots control.
Exactly, James. Across Africa, citizens have restored solar grids, water purification systems, and shipping lanes abandoned during the Exodus. Nairobi engineers repurpose salvage tech to power hospitals, schools, and agricultural projects. Zanzibar's deep water port reopened through manual labor, enabling critical supply distribution without corporate oversight. Cape Town's air quality improved as shipping fleets previously controlled by elites became community managed. Citizens merged traditional knowledge with repurposed infrastructure, ensuring technology serves public needs. The global recalibration shows that humans can reclaim not just assets, but systems of knowledge and energy, shifting the balance from privatized control to community stewardship with long-term sustainability.
In Europe, Susan, abandoned servers and corporate networks are being transformed into public information hubs. Parisian citizens repurpose Deutsche Bank's tech facilities to create open-access databases and fact-checking systems. Berlin's former AI monitoring centers are now teaching labs for ethical coding and environmental modeling. Communities integrate technology with education and governance, using these systems to rebuild infrastructure and promote transparency. The Exodus left immense technological power unattended, and ordinary people are converting it into societal tools. This shows that knowledge is only dangerous if hoarded. Once shared, technology becomes a force for survival, education, and ethical progress in a post-elite world.
Absolutely, James. In the Middle East, Cairo and Istanbul citizens access previously locked servers to redistribute knowledge and energy protocols. Abandoned telecommunication hubs are converted into community mesh networks, providing free internet access. Renewable energy installations, once restricted to elite compounds, are managed by local cooperatives, powering clinics and schools. Citizens now decide priorities for technology deployment, emphasizing human welfare and sustainability over profit. By integrating energy, communications, and computational resources, communities create resilient, self-sufficient systems. Ordinary people are proving that with knowledge and cooperation, societies can adapt to major structural changes, ensuring essential services are equitable, transparent, and locally governed.
Suzanne, in North America, citizens reclaim data and biotech infrastructure. Toronto's former private labs open archives containing AI research and medical breakthroughs for public study. Denver's arcology now runs autonomous energy systems repurposed for community benefit, while abandoned greenhouse domes supply food for thousands. Even cryogenic chambers left by billionaires are being studied ethically to advance science without commercialization. Citizens learn to operate and maintain advanced technologies, bridging gaps between elite-controlled knowledge and public empowerment. The shift proves that technological mastery is not reserved for the wealthy. It can be reclaimed and applied for collective survival, education, and sustainable development.
Europe and Asia-Pacific see similar transformations, James. Seoul citizens repurpose surveillance and tech infrastructures into open learning centers and renewable energy labs. Japanese communities salvage robotic systems for disaster relief and agriculture. Across France, Netherlands, and Germany, farmers integrate open-source energy and water technologies, once monopolized by corporations, into daily operations. Citizens innovate while maintaining sustainability, balancing tradition with advanced systems. The narrative is clear. Technology can be liberated and applied for human flourishing when managed collectively. Ordinary people, guided by ethics and necessity, are transforming elite-owned tools into public goods, demonstrating a model for responsible, decentralized technological governance.
Africa continues this trend, Susan. In Johannesburg, engineers restore solar and wind systems, powering clinics and community centers. Nairobi's Groundwire Circle uses salvaged tech to monitor water quality and distribute resources equitably. Formerly private telecom networks now form public mesh networks, ensuring connectivity without cost or surveillance. Citizens integrate technology with governance and education, turning technical knowledge into practical societal benefits. The Exodus left enormous capability unclaimed, and communities are turning it into lifelines for survival, ethical growth, and long-term resilience. Ordinary people prove that when technology is democratized, it can serve humanity rather than exploit it.
James, South America sees similar grassroots tech adaptation. Medellin citizens use abandoned AI infrastructure to create local knowledge-sharing hubs. Sao Paulo repurposes cloud systems for public health monitoring and sustainable agriculture. Communities integrate renewable energy, data systems, and scientific tools to improve living conditions. With elite oversight gone, citizens assume full responsibility, learning advanced systems while ensuring equitable distribution. Technology becomes a communal asset rather than a weapon of control. This approach empowers society to meet essential needs while fostering innovation, education, and resilience, proving humanity can adapt quickly when opportunity and responsibility converge.
In Australia, Susan, citizens reclaim abandoned research facilities and energy systems. Sydney's arcologies, once elite luxury compounds, now serve communities with clean water, renewable energy, and local data centers. Formerly secret labs host workshops on sustainable technologies and robotics, accessible to all. People operate drones and sensor networks for disaster management, ensuring preparedness without elite intervention. Across the continent, technology is being humanized, connected to societal needs, and ethically managed. Citizens demonstrate that with initiative and cooperation, complex systems can be harnessed for the collective good, marking a historic shift from private monopolization to public stewardship of knowledge and infrastructure.
James, the Exodus has transformed global science and technology access. Abandoned assets are converted into community laboratories, renewable energy hubs, and educational centers worldwide. Citizens coordinate internationally, sharing expertise, open source data, and resources. Infrastructure once used for surveillance or profit is now a tool for survival, learning, and cooperation. Ordinary people lead in innovation, ethical research, and sustainable management. Humanity demonstrates adaptability, creativity, and moral responsibility, turning a crisis into a historic opportunity. The world now proves that technological empowerment can exist outside elite control, enabling equitable access, communal progress, and resilient societies for generations to come.
Susan, the world is witnessing an unprecedented social experiment. Citizen councils are forming across Europe, Africa, and North America, replacing the old hierarchical governance structures left by the Exodus. In France, a 4-member interim assembly of activists, teachers, and union representatives now manages public resources and legislation, while South Sudan transfers control of oil fields to local councils. In Denver, the People's Corps oversees food, energy, and healthcare distribution. Ordinary people are making decisions collectively, often using digital consensus tools and community assemblies. Governance is decentralized, transparent, and collaborative, proving societies can self-organize rapidly when previous power vacuums emerge.
Exactly, James. In Asia, local assemblies are reclaiming control over previously monopolized infrastructure. Seoul citizens voted to shut down surveillance systems, prioritizing privacy and community oversight. Cairo communities repurpose abandoned governmental offices into public deliberation spaces with transparent glass walls, enabling open observation of decision-making. In New York, residents establish neighborhood councils and civic forums in former financial buildings. This participatory governance fosters accountability, encourages civic engagement, and allows communities to manage public assets ethically. Ordinary people now determine policy, distribution, and infrastructure priorities, shifting society from centralized control to grassroots democracy and reinforcing collective responsibility over shared resources.
In Africa and South America, Suzanne, citizen-led governance, is creating resilient, adaptive systems. Nairobi's UMOA 6 cooperative coordinates healthcare and logistics across 6 nations without profit or central authority. Johannesburg establishes rotating councils for energy, water, and education, ensuring no single group dominates decision-making. Sao Paulo and Medellin transform former corporate buildings into civic centers for community planning and legal oversight. These initiatives demonstrate that decentralized governance can function at scale, maintain fairness, and balance diverse community needs. Local leaders, chosen through rotation or consensus, manage resources while empowering citizens to contribute expertise, creating a sustainable and equitable model for the post-Exodus world.
Moreover, James, legal frameworks are rapidly evolving to reflect societal shifts. Governments and communities grapple with questions of ownership, territorial rights, and accountability for abandoned elite assets. In Europe, France cancels 480 billion euros in debt owed to absent billionaires, redefining financial obligations in favor of citizens. Malawi implements a rotating council for food and water security decisions, while in Senegal, communities establish rules for resource distribution and conflict resolution. These systems prioritize transparency, fairness, and collective consent. Ordinary people now write laws, adjudicate disputes, and enforce ethical conduct, proving that decentralized legal authority can replace outdated institutions when traditional governance collapses.
Suzanne, the creative integration of technology with governance is critical. Community councils employ open-source platforms, previously controlled by corporations, for voting, resource tracking, and public communication. In Lagos City, residents use apps for rotating committee management and collaborative budgeting. Berlin transforms Spree Park into a civic chamber, where laws are proposed and debated publicly. Digital tools enhance accountability while reducing corruption and secrecy. Communities can monitor decisions in real time, ensuring that policies reflect collective needs rather than elite interests. This convergence of technology and grassroots governance strengthens civic engagement and creates adaptive, responsive, and ethical frameworks for society in the post-Exodus era.
James, these governance experiments are redefining global politics. Communities in South Sudan, France, and Asia negotiate territorial, financial, and resource-sharing agreements without centralized authority. Public forums, rotating councils, and participatory decision-making foster inclusion, transparency, and accountability. Citizens are not only reclaiming power, but redefining what it means to govern responsibly. With education, energy, and technology integrated into local control, societies can address immediate needs while planning for long-term stability. The Exodus has accelerated an organic, worldwide recalibration of political and legal systems, proving that ordinary people, when empowered, can rebuild societies ethically, efficiently, and sustainably.
Suzanne, the cultural landscape is transforming as communities reclaim spaces once dominated by wealth and exclusivity. In Berlin, musicians perform on rooftops of abandoned corporate towers, blending art with civic engagement. Libraries, museums, and theaters are repurposed for public access, free from gatekeeping or elite control. In Austin, educators and local artists create open curricula, music halls, and creative hubs, fostering collaboration across generations. Citizens are engaging with art, knowledge, and heritage as a shared resource rather than a commodity. The transformation is both symbolic and practical, weaving culture into the foundation of everyday community life.
Absolutely, James. Across Africa, grassroots initiatives are redefining cultural and educational participation. Nairobi's engineering groups restore power to informal settlements while teaching sustainable technology practices. Johannesburg turns stock exchange buildings into interactive learning labs, where children explore programming, environmental science, and civic responsibility. In Southern Africa, interfaith gatherings unite communities through shared rituals, meals, and storytelling. People are reclaiming history, faith, and creativity as collective experiences, emphasizing collaboration, inclusivity, and social cohesion. This cultural awakening is inseparable from the broader societal renaissance, nurturing identity, resilience, and mutual respect among citizens previously marginalized by elite dominance.
In the Americas, Susan, citizens are creatively repurposing abandoned infrastructure into centers of knowledge and public service. New York's former financial buildings become resource hubs, combining libraries, healthcare access, and community planning offices. Schools once reserved for the elite open to all children, integrating science, arts, and ethics into immersive programs. In Medellin, open-air forums allow communities to debate policies, share knowledge, and coordinate local projects. The approach emphasizes experiential learning, participatory governance, and mutual accountability. By converting abandoned spaces into instruments of public enrichment, society is constructing a new cultural and educational foundation centered on accessibility, cooperation, and empowerment.
Europe's transformation mirrors these trends, James. Parisian neighborhoods repurpose corporate offices into public theaters, galleries, and civic chambers, blending creativity with civic engagement. Berlin's open parliamentary experiments provide platforms for legislative debates with real-time public feedback. Residents curate art, archives, and digital repositories collectively, establishing transparent cultural stewardship. Communities are reclaiming heritage while fostering innovation, producing environments where knowledge, creativity, and civic responsibility converge. The cultural renaissance fosters empathy, accountability, and shared ownership of resources and history, proving that societal creativity flourishes when guided by inclusion rather than profit motives.
Meanwhile, in Asia Pacific, Suzanne, citizens are dismantling surveillance infrastructure while reviving traditional knowledge. Seoul deactivates AI-driven monitoring, replacing it with community-managed safety initiatives. Grassroots engineering groups restore energy, water, and transport systems using locally sourced and sustainable methods. Cultural programs integrate traditional practices with modern education, reconnecting younger generations to heritage. Public storytelling, music, and performance spaces flourish in once restricted urban areas. The blend of innovation and tradition empowers communities to reclaim autonomy, identity, and resilience, demonstrating that cultural rebirth is both a practical and spiritual response to the sudden absence of elite control.
James, this global cultural awakening reinforces social cohesion and shared humanity. From Istanbul's Hagia Sophia becoming an open learning and spiritual center to South African interfaith gatherings, people are reclaiming spaces for collaboration, reflection, and communal growth. Artistic expression, open education, and participatory governance intertwine, creating resilient communities that value human connection above hierarchical control. This rebirth shows that even in the absence of elites, societies can flourish culturally, ethically, and socially, cultivating a world where creativity, cooperation, and shared purpose replace exclusion, surveillance, and centralized authority.
Susan, the technological landscape is being entirely reclaimed by citizens after the elite departure. Former AI labs, data centers, and research facilities are now community-operated. In Silicon Valley, students and engineers repurpose servers for public STEM education, while previously secret algorithms are being converted into open-source tools for social good. Satellites and communication networks abandoned by tech tycoons are rerouted for emergency internet access in South America and Africa. People are taking control of systems once monopolized by corporations, transforming them into instruments of collaboration, innovation, and resilience, fostering a society where technology serves collective rather than individual interests.
Exactly, James. In Africa, grassroots engineers restore solar grids and micro-hydroelectric systems using salvaged components, powering entire villages without reliance on corporate networks. Zanzibar's deep-water port, abandoned by private operators, is reopened for humanitarian logistics. Nairobi converts luxury tech warehouses into community labs, training young engineers and redistributing essential resources. Former surveillance networks, from Seoul to Cape Town, are deactivated or repurposed for public monitoring and environmental management. These efforts demonstrate that technological power, once concentrated among the elite, can be harnessed to empower communities, strengthen self-reliance, and rebuild critical infrastructure equitably.
Meanwhile, Europe witnesses a remarkable reallocation of technological assets, Susan. Berlin's Spree Park, previously a high-security corporate research site, becomes an informal hub for civic experimentation and collaborative innovation. Parisian citizens convert abandoned AI labs into fact-checking and ethical monitoring centers, ensuring transparency in information flow. In Switzerland, formerly private cryogenic and experimental facilities are secured, studied, and integrated into public research programs. By transforming elite-owned systems into tools for communal benefit, societies are not just reclaiming technology, they're redefining the ethical framework around innovation, prioritizing public welfare and sustainability over profit and secrecy.
Asia-Pacific developments echo this global trend, James. In Tokyo and Seoul, engineers take over abandoned biotech and robotics labs, converting them into centers for practical problem-solving, education, and disaster preparedness. Formerly monopolized data networks are made accessible to citizens for research, healthcare coordination, and grassroots planning. Communities creatively integrate local resources with high-tech infrastructure, creating hybrid systems that blend sustainability with modern capabilities. Technology, once an instrument of elite control and surveillance, is now a shared resource enabling self-determination, resilience, and a reconnection between society and its technological tools.
In the Americas, Suzanne, reclamation extends to energy and transport systems. Denver's Arcology, formerly a private tech enclave, operates under citizen control, supplying free electricity, clean water, and underground heat to nearby communities. Shipping fleets in Cape Town and Miami are navigated manually, reopening vital supply chains. Public transit hubs in New York and Sao Paulo are repurposed for humanitarian distribution and community initiatives. Citizens demonstrate ingenuity and cooperation in leveraging complex infrastructures without elite oversight, proving that decentralized management of critical systems can maintain societal function while promoting equity and shared responsibility. Suzanne, with the elites gone, governments are improvising governance while communities step into leadership roles. France and South Sudan experiment with rotating councils. Citizens vote directly on essential matters like food distribution, energy management, and local security. In the U.S., city committees coordinate relief, education, and resource allocation without centralized authority. Old hierarchies crumble, replaced by participatory decision-making. People who once relied on institutions now take responsibility for their neighborhoods, redefining civic duty. This seismic shift demonstrates humanity's capacity to self-organize under extreme conditions, creating systems rooted in collaboration, transparency, and resilience rather than legacy power structures.
Exactly, James. Cultural life is flourishing alongside political innovation. Berlin hosts open-air assemblies where music, art, and storytelling unite communities. Austin's libraries and tech hubs are free access, fostering shared learning and creative growth. In Africa, interfaith gatherings in Nairobi and Cape Town symbolize reconciliation and unity, while Hagia Sophia opens as a public sanctuary. Across continents, citizens reclaim spaces once restricted to elites, transforming them into communal centers of education, expression, and dialogue. This cultural renaissance reinforces the social fabric, proving that even in the aftermath of systemic collapse, human connection and creativity endure as forces for healing and reconstruction.
Suzanne, science and technology are also reoriented toward public good. Former corporate labs, AI centers, and biotech facilities are repurposed for community benefit. Open source projects emerge from abandoned elite research, while satellite and communication networks serve humanitarian coordination. In Nairobi, women-led engineering groups restore water, power, and medical services. In Europe, students repurpose algorithms for ethical monitoring and public planning. These efforts highlight a profound transformation. Infrastructure once designed to concentrate wealth and control now functions to empower collective survival, education, and equity, ensuring technological innovation advances the needs of the many, not the few.
Meanwhile, economic systems are rebalanced. Communities reclaim former elite assets, luxury estates, shipping fleets, vaults, and redistribute them for healthcare, education, housing, and food security. Grassroots councils manage finances with transparency, emphasizing equity and sustainability. Traditional corporate hierarchies dissolve as citizens collaborate on logistics, trade, and production. In South Africa, gold vaults fund solar infrastructure. In France, debts tied to exiled elites are canceled. The public assumes control over formerly centralized systems, creating hybrid models where human ingenuity replaces corporate monopoly. It's a demonstration that societal resilience emerges not from wealth, but from resourcefulness, cooperation, and shared accountability.
Suzanne, reflecting on this unprecedented transformation, humanity is navigating a quiet revolution. Where elites once dictated the rules, ordinary citizens now reclaim authority over land, resources, and knowledge. Communities engage in civic deliberation, ethical innovation, and cultural regeneration. Even religion and spirituality adapt, forming interfaith circles for mutual support and reconciliation. Ordinary people rewrite the rules of daily life, prioritizing collaboration, equity, and ecological stewardship. The world is learning that survival and prosperity are rooted in shared responsibility, adaptability, and moral courage, not in concentrated wealth or hierarchical control.
Finally, James, the broadcast leaves listeners with a message of cautious hope. The departure of the richest 0.01% was a rupture, but from it, humanity is reclaiming agency, dignity, and purpose. Social systems, infrastructure, culture, and technology are being rebuilt for the collective. Communities innovate without elite oversight, demonstrating resilience, creativity, and empathy. This epoch marks not only survival, but also a profound social experiment in shared stewardship. The Earth is no longer governed by a few, but by the many, a testament to humanity's capacity for renewal, solidarity, and the creation of a more equitable and vibrant world.